Everybody, back again with another video, this one for some of the bonus credit you can earn for this project. The first thing we're going to work on is developing a way to show actual images in our games outside of just regular shapes. So let's see a summary of what we're going to talk about. First, you have 4 steps that you have to worry about. The first is to download or create images, make sure they're the right size, and place them into a directory in the project folder. The second is to incorporate the image code in your actual game files, your game code, using load image and image functions in the proper place. Then you have to move a copy of your project to your home directory. And then finally, you have to set up a Python server that lets you access your project at a local host or off of the server at a local host URL. So let's start out with step 1. So I've already downloaded some images that are going to be used for my Bird Crasher, my Flappy Bird clone game. I've taken the liberty of placing them already into an images folder, and you'll notice I have one called Wings Open and one called Wings Closed. And the goal of this is to sort of have this flapping idea. And so one thing you may not have is the extension available immediately. If you look at more info, you'll notice that this is actually a PNG file. So a portable network graphics file. In this case, we're going to be using that in our code, so we have to take note of the extension. The same for Wings Closed. And it may be a good idea to also get some information on the size of this image, which oftentimes you can do just by opening the image up in a preview app. Maybe looking to adjust the size, you see this is 217 pixels by 128 pixels at a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. So the first 2 numbers are the ones that I care about for the width and the height. You might want to make note of those. 217 and 128 for this one. So let's see. The other one actually will be slightly different metric, but for our purposes it doesn't matter. So let's get this incorporated into our code, the second step. Now, largely what you're going to be doing is using images in place of objects. And so that means we're going to have to edit the code for those objects, and we're going to have to be able to display these images. So for our purposes, I'm going to be editing the bird.js file here. If I open all 3 of these, I open them in Sublime Text, you'll notice that bird has some width, height, x, and y, and we don't have a place to put this image. So let's actually set up an image. This.img, maybe we'll call it img1, or maybe we'll call it wings open, because we actually have a wings open image. And we're going to set that variable to hold the image itself, which we do by saying load image, and then including the path to the image. In my case, the path to the image from the index.html is through my JS folder, and then, not through my JS, through my images folder, and it's wingsopen.png. So I will say // for the current directory, images /wingsopen.png. And I'll save that. I'll also say this dot wings closed equals load image dot slash images slash wings closed dot png, my other file. Now, the nice thing is that we're almost done setting up images. If I just want the wings open file to show, well, we're going to want to show our image inside the show function. And the way we do that is by editing, instead of saying rect, we'll say image so that we can display an image. And then instead of having these 4 arguments, we'll actually add one at the front, which is the name of the image variable. So this dot wings open. And when I run this on my server, what we'll notice is that the wings open image will display instead of just a rectangle. Now I'm going to show you the rest of the code right here so that we don't have to keep going back and forth. And maybe I'll do some small edits later on. But another thing you can do is use the frame rate to determine which image you show. So if the frame, or use the frame count. So if the frame count, assuming a 60 frame per second rate of image creation, we take the frame count and we see if it's divisible by 60, or if it's less than, when it's divided by 60, we have a remainder of 30 or less, and then 30 or above. And so that will mean that every half second we'll switch the image. The way we can do that is if frame count %60, if frame count, or the remainder when divided by 60, is less than 30, we're in the first half of our second. And otherwise, we say if frame count, or we can just say else here. Else, what do we want to do? Maybe we want to say, take this line, copy it, paste it. Oh, we're getting some extra braces around. Copy it, paste it, and get this image to be wings closed instead. So every half second, we're going to try to show one image, and then the other half of the second will show the other image. Nothing else changes. So let's get this show on the road. Let's actually display this stuff. There's nothing else I have to change if I'm just changing an object image or a class image. So I'm going to close out Sublime Text. And the next step, as we see, is move a copy of the project to your home directory. Now, the reason we want to do this is to be able to access it relatively easily through our home server without all sorts of other pathing redirects. You could keep it where it is, but to make a copy and paste, it makes the path easier to paste or to get to. So we're going to take our bird crasher folder, we're going to copy it, we're going to go to our home directory. This is for Mac. The process will be slightly different for Windows. And then we'll paste it. And now I obviously have an old copy here, but I'm going to replace it. So I have this bird crasher folder inside of my desktop, or inside of my home directory. Now let's open up bird crasher, and just from here you can start to edit files in this copy of your project. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to now start our fourth part of our bonus, and that's going to be to run a Python server to access the project through the localhost 8000 URL. So the way we do this is you're going to open up terminal, which is sort of the command line for Mac, lets us send commands directly to the computer through text, as opposed to trying to use a GUI, a graphical user interface, like you do when you're moving through these folders. So once you open up Terminal, and there's a lot of damage you can do if you're not careful here, but for us, we're going to be pretty simple. We're going to say Python -m, and then simple HTTP server, being very careful with the capitalization. We're going to press enter. And what that does is it starts our server, and it'll be through the localhost at port 8000. So let's access that now through a web browser. So going through this this web browser path, what we can say is localhost 8000 / bird crasher, the name of our project. And you'll notice that I'm just including a slash at the end. And what that'll do is it'll allow us to access the index.html file that's stored inside the bird crasher folder by default. So if we run this, I'm going to have to move this up here. I'm going to press return. And you'll notice there was an image there, and it's changing as I fail to beat my own game. Let's make this a little smaller. And you see that the bird image shifts as time moves on. One point. Okay, so as you see, this is one way to get images into your project. Ultimately, the main thing is you have to get the server running, and you have to have the code, and you have to have your images. Moving a copy to your home directory is not entirely necessary, but let's keep it simple, and good luck.